after you died, that night in my dream, we made love till we cried, till we cried. Your body was glowing and we had nothing to hide. Everything's tragic, we all die one day. I still hope to see you when I pass away, pass away. All confusion forgiven, no sorry's left to say. I almost died in California, listening to my friends. Found you there 1 year later. That's where it ends, where it ends. Good thing I came back, a broken heart to mend. You promised that next time we'd play all night long, but all that is left is the ghost of your songs, of your songs. You're singing in heaven where nothing can ever go wrong. My life could be empty if not for the hole you left when you floated away with your soul, with your soul. And all I can give you is the heart that you already stole. What does it mean that after you died, that night in my dream, we made love till we cried, till we cried. Your body was glowing and we had nothing to hide. So I wrote that song after my first several months touring in an all-girl bluegrass band. And when you're touring in an all-girl bluegrass band and playing at festivals and things, you often have a lot of dudes seeing that you seem to be untaken chicks, and they follow you around and, I don't know, flirt with you and stuff. And I never really thought too much about it. I think it made me a little overwhelmed a lot of the time. And I would mostly be like, let's jam, I want to go play instruments. And we played at this one festival where we met this really fun group of musicians, and this one guy was putting a lot of attention towards me, and I was just thinking, oh, okay, well, let's play music later. And I remember that night we played music, and I hadn't really noticed, I guess, how we played in the band. It was like kind of different music and lots of different people, and but in this jam, this like hardcore bluegrass jam, see the goat behind me? I'm on a goat farm. I noticed his playing and I was like, wait a minute, who are you? Who is this guy again? And from that point on, I kind of was following him around, and we had all kinds of nice little snobby conversations about good bluegrass, and that definitely won my heart. And I saw him at the next festival that I went to in Colorado, and we had a lot more really deep connecting conversations about being on the road and playing in bands. And I've had a lot of these conversations with people by now, but at the time it was kind of newer to connect with people on that level, and it was really exciting and felt really unique and special. And we had just like a kind of unconsummated romance going on there, because I guess we were shy or something. I was definitely shy, and we were sleep deprived, and there's a lot going on. And the last night at that festival, I was standing watching the band by myself, and he came up to me and said, let's go in this silo right here that's in the audience of the festival, kind of towards the back. And we went in, and I was like, oh, cool, silo, and I started climbing up it, and I went outside again, and then he came back out and looped his finger through my belt loop and, like, tugged at me to go back in the silo. Sometimes you gotta be blunt with old Milly Raccoon. And I went in there, and we started making out and everything, which was really exciting to me. This is what I wanted. But I also was really anxious about the fact that we were in a semi-public place, and where can this go from here, and what if people walk in, and I had so many thoughts going through my head that I kind of steered it in another direction, and that ended. But then we spent the rest of the night jamming together and had this newly established connection between us, and I was so excited because I had been really excited about him for a long time now. And he slept in my tent that night, but just really crankily, facing away from me, didn't want anything to do with me, and it was kind of strange because he had never acted that way towards me, but, you know, sometimes people are just so tired that they can't interact. And then it was kind of awkward saying goodbye to him and his band in the morning. He was kind of distant with me, but I was still super, super excited, super passionate about him. And I was playing in a band called God's Favorite Beefcake at the time. So it was back in Western Washington, and that weekend, right after that Colorado festival, I was playing with that band, and we were out in a place where there wasn't pretty much any internet or phone service. And I remember thinking at the time I really, really wanted to contact him, and I had all these really intense, passionate things to say to him. And I remember thinking, it's kind of good I don't have the connection right now, because I can wait till I've, like, calmed down a little bit so that I don't send him overwhelming things, because I can get pretty out there with my feelings and my poetic words. And so I waited till the end of the weekend, finally got back into town, and sent him an email from home that was a little more reined in, but still expressed a lot of feelings and love. And it took him a while to respond to it, and when he finally did, he wrote back something like, yeah, it'd be nice to play music with you again sometime. And I didn't really know what that meant, and it felt kind of dismissive, but I wasn't sure, and I asked all these different friends, like, if you were in his situation, what would you mean when you wrote that? And mostly my friends said, oh, well, it would probably mean I had a nice time one time, but wasn't really interested in pursuing anything more. It wasn't really what I wanted to hear, because I was so obsessed and attached and excited and thinking about how I was going to move down to where he lived so we could be together and all these things. And I was at another festival with my bluegrass band the next weekend, and I was kind of new to Facebook and social media. I didn't really know how to stalk people very well on it, but the woman I was traveling with was really good at it, and she showed me, like, how to find all the old pictures and everything, and she helped me find all these pictures of him and this one woman who lived where he lived, and she was like, yeah, sorry, it definitely looks like he has a girlfriend, and that's what's going on with the not getting back to you kind of thing. So that was pretty crushing to me, but I still was really attached to the idea of being his friend and playing with him again sometime. And I was gonna see him at Hardly Strictly Bluegrass Festival in San Francisco in a couple months, and so those couple months I just was thinking about it and planning it, and how would it go, and would his girlfriend be there, did he really have a girlfriend, was that what was going on, but we'd hopefully still get to jam, and I'd get to play with the rest of his band, and we'd be friends, and it was fun, and it took up a lot of my thoughts. And it was interesting when I was finally heading down to Hardly Strictly Bluegrass Festival, I was thinking about what had happened the previous year when I was going down to that festival, which was I had been planning to take a Greyhound and crash with some friends in their hotel room because they had an extra bed. And I had a friend at that time who was a marijuana dealer. And this is many, many years ago, law enforcement, and I'm not a marijuana dealer, and he's not anymore, and it's not going on. So it was a long time ago, it's just a story. And he wanted me to drive his car down to Hardly Strictly Bluegrass Festival because he couldn't come there till later and had to take a plane, and he needed to go down to Northern California every 6 weeks or so and get his product, about maybe $20,000 worth of his product. And so it would be really convenient for him if I could take his car. But I didn't really want to do that because I had never done a long road trip by myself, and it seemed sketchy, and I didn't want to drive into this huge city and find places to park it when there's like 10,000 extra people in the city, or however many come for that festival. And I was saying I didn't really want to do it, but he's like, no, it'd be so nice for you having a car, and we can meet back up, and you should really do it. And so I did it, and I didn't get very much sleep even the night I left, because I had to hang an art show in Seattle. I was doing my own art show at a cafe, and then I had to play in my band, and I was done playing with my band at like 11:30 or 12 at night, and that's when I got on the road. And then I drove all night until dawn and just stopped in some parking lot to sleep for a few hours, but it was getting hot in the car already, so I didn't get much sleep, and I just kind of got back on the road and really wanted to pick up some hitchhikers to have some company and help me stay awake, because I was thinking, oh, I should get coffee at some point. I'm kind of tired, but whatever, I'm just driving. I didn't understand how dangerous it was to drive tired. And I did find some hitchhikers, and they were kind of annoying in a way. I mean, they were nice enough people, but they wanted to smoke in the car, and they wanted to do this and that in the car, and I didn't really want them to, but I wanted to be cool. I didn't want to be like uptight, so I let them do it. But then when you don't take care of your own needs and boundaries, you end up just like secretly brooding at people, and that's a bad cycle, and I don't do that anymore, but at the time I did. And we were listening to like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas or something, book on tape, whatever story it is that's about like driving hitchhikers through California in 105-degree heat with drugs in the back, which was basically what I was doing. I didn't have drugs in the back, but I had $10,000 in cash for my friend who needed to pick up his product, and he had the other $10,000, which is the cash limit of what you're allowed to take on an airplane. And maybe I had like, because most of my friends were flying down to this festival, they had me take like their pot brownies and things they couldn't take on the plane so they could have them at the festival. So I definitely had some contraband going on. And I had hit my friend's instrument, my instrument, camping gear, all kinds of stuff. And at some point, I hit the side of the road where it will usually just buzz and kind of like snap you out of it if you drift off the highway a little bit. But it was under construction right at that area around Red Bluff, California. And instead of the buzzy thing, it was just soft dirt. And so the car instantly spun out and went perpendicular across all the lanes of I-5 South at 1:30 p.m. and somehow didn't hit into any other cars, but then went down the hill through trees, bumping into trees, and finally hit a tree at the bottom and stopped, and the airbags had deployed. And anytime I had seen this happen to a car in movies, it's about to explode. So I figured the car was going to explode, and so I was like, get out of the car! And we got out of the car, and we're like hugging each other like, are you okay? Are you okay? And then the car didn't explode, but I couldn't figure out how to turn it off, and it was like blasting metal music. We'd been listening to metal at that point, and finally the tow truck driver came, and the police came, and all these people were looking on, and the police turned off the car, and so it was a little calmer at that point. But they were telling me the car was totaled, and I had to call my friend and explain this to him. And I really just wanted to go home at that point, but my friend insisted that I get a Greyhound and continue on my way to the festival, because he needed me to take all his stuff to this festival and take all the money to the festival and continue with his chore, his errand that he needed to do afterwards, and it was going to be a lot more helpful to him to have me there with him to make us less conspicuous, like we're a sweet little couple, you know. And so I had to find my way to the Greyhound from the crash site on the side of the road, and the car was taken away to the towing lot, so I had to find a way in front of all the onlookers and the tow truck driver and the police how to kind of sneakily get this $10,000 out of the trunk where it was hidden, and anything else out of the car without them being suspicious of what I was getting out of there. And I remember looking through the trunk, like throwing all these things around, like, how about this book? How about this baseball? How about this jacket? How about this little bag full of $10,000 in cash? Yeah, I guess I'll keep that. How about this sweater? How about this baseball? And I remember picking up baseballs a whole bunch of times and thinking, if the police are watching me, they're thinking, like, I'm really invested in this baseball and really considering whether I need to rescue it in this moment. And I was just pretending to be more panicked than I actually was, so that they'd be distracted by my energy and not really looking at what I was doing. Kind of like Harriet Tubman style or something. And so now it was 105 degrees. I had whiplash. I had just crashed a car. I was thinking, okay, I've been a musician and surviving on like poor traveling musicians pay, but now I'm gonna have to get a real job to pay for this car I've just destroyed, and my life's gonna change, and my touring situation's gonna change, and I have to get to the Greyhound, and I'm carrying like $8,000 worth of instruments, and I'm carrying all this other electronic gear that was in the car, and all our camping equipment, and our clothes, and my friend's pot brownies, and the $10,000 in cash, which I had like distributed throughout all these little pockets I had in my jacket, and just like was full of all this stuff and all these liabilities. And I had to get to the Greyhound, which was several miles away in this heat, unslept, and I decided I needed to hitchhike. So I went to a gas station that was nearby and decided to ask people at the gas station, because then I could get a feel for them and see if they were safe, and decided I wanted to ask a woman because that'd probably be safer. And I found a woman and asked if she would take me there, and she said she didn't have enough gas in her car. So I said, okay, I will definitely put gas in your car if you take me to the Greyhound. And so we got on the road, and she's taking me, and she's like, I'm so on E right now. And I was thinking about what that means, and I was thinking, I think that means ecstasy. Is that something that's dangerous to drive a car on? Like, what does that mean? Is this a bad decision? Should I continue with her? I don't know. This seems like the best bet I have for getting there. And actually, the directions that they had given us at the gas station for the Greyhound were wrong. But fortunately, this woman on E knew where the new Greyhound station was, and she actually managed to take me to that place. And I met this guy at the gas station, at the Greyhound station, who went from Red Bluff, California, where I'd crashed, to Chico, California, almost every day on the Greyhound to visit his wife who was dying in the hospital. And I told him about what had just happened to me, and he was Mexican, and we were speaking Spanish, and he gave me this little Virgin Mary pin, which I still wear sometimes, and a little Jesus pin, which I still wear sometimes, that were supposed to protect me on the rest of my journey. And I made it to the festival, and I took the Greyhound overnight. Couldn't sleep on the Greyhound because of whiplash and people yelling and singing and shouting on the Greyhound all night. So now it had been like a few nights I hadn't slept, and I had to meet my friends. And I met these other friends at the festival, because the ones I was supposed to stay with initially weren't there yet. And so I'm carrying around all this stuff, and my friends are getting kind of annoyed because they have to get somewhere. They had reservations at a hotel or at a restaurant, and they're trying to help me, but I don't have a plan. And so we're just wandering around at this festival, and I'm trying to watch the shows a little bit while we're hanging out there, but I'm in so much pain from my crash that I can't even nod my head to the music. So I decided to take a little bit of pot brownie to just ease the pain. But if you haven't really eaten much and you haven't slept in 3 nights, and you have this traumatic experience that just happened to you, marijuana is going to have a really strong effect on your mind. And so now I was way more out of it, and my friends are taking me back into downtown San Francisco, which is swamped with people and traffic, and they're trying to get to their reservations at the restaurant, and they're like, "Where are we taking you? What is your plan?" And I can barely speak, and I don't know what's going on, and the woman's parents are there, and they're trying to help me, and they're like, "You know what, we'll take her. You guys go to the restaurant, we'll take her." And I had all these different, I was trying to call cabs, and I was trying to hitchhike, and I was trying to get to different addresses because I couldn't keep track of which address was where I was going, because there was so many logistics to take care of. And somehow they were able to sift through all the addresses that I was saying and get me to this restaurant, which is where I actually was trying to meet the friends I was staying with. And I finally got there, and I was safe. And I just didn't even know how that all came together, but it was pretty wild. Okay, so a year later, I'm going to the same festival, and I meet up with that friend who I had connected with at the festival and who I loved, and I saw him, and he was there with his girlfriend, and it was awkward, and it was fine, and whatever, and he's like, "Let's jam later," but then they ended up not wanting to jam, and the person I was with was like, "Stop letting people just yank you around. He obviously is not into you, and just get over it." And it was really a slap in the face, and we had to leave, and he's like, "Next time we'll totally jam all night." And so a month later, I was hanging out in Nashville and visiting a different friend who I had met at that same festival, and showing him this awesome guitar player who I met, who I loved so much, and showing him these videos of him playing ukulele. He was this really amazing Hawaiian style ukulele player. And I got back from that trip to Nashville and got home, and still was thinking about that guy, and still loved him, still thinking about maybe someday, And I saw this little post on Facebook about him singing with the angels in heaven. And I remember my understanding of that post at first was yeah, he does sing like an angel, that's so cool. But the more I thought about it, I was like, what did that person really mean when they wrote that? And so I went to his page, and I realized that this friend, almost exactly a year after I had crashed on I-5 in California, he had crashed his car on I-5 in California, and he did not survive. And he died. And I was very heartbroken by this, and tried to go to his funeral, but didn't make it, and wrote him this song on the ukulele. That's why I played it for you on the ukulele this time. And so probably you would understand the lyrics to this song mostly from that collection of stories. And I even found out later from his bandmates, like, just kind of how weird he was playing with my heart and mind, and he apparently would, like, go to festivals and compete with other guys in his band to see how many women they could, like, get to sleep with them and get to fall in love with them. It was like a contest. And, like, when I was at Hardly Strictly kind of trying to just meet up with him to jam, he had been, like, showing my texts and, like, making fun of them to the other people. So I was thinking, well, that's not very nice. But, you know, you gotta forgive people who died. They can't really fix it in this lifetime. And I remember when I found out he died, I called him and left a message on his voicemail saying, like, I forgive you, and I'm sorry I was a secret to you, but maybe you can find some love for me, and I'll always love you and remember you. And I remember I had a dream that because we never actually did make love, per se, but in my dream we did around the time I found out he died. And so that's this song. Thank you for listening.